Organization of African Unity was established on 25 May 1963 in Addis Ababa, with 32 signatory governments. It was disbanded on 9 July 2002 by its last chairperson, South African President Thabo Mbeki, and replaced by the African Union. Aims. The OAU had the following primary aims: to coordinate and intensify the cooperation of African states in order to achieve a better life for the people of Africa, to defend the sovereignty, territorial integrity and independence of African states. The OAU was also dedicated to the eradication of all forms of colonialism and white minority rule. When it was established, there were several states that had not yet won their independence or were white minority ruled. South Africa and Angola were two such countries. The OAU proposed two ways of ridding the continent of colonialism and white minority rule. Firstly, it would defend the interests of independent countries and help to pursue the independence those of still colonized ones. Secondly, it would remain neutral in terms of world affairs, preventing its members from being controlled once more by outside powers. A liberation committee was established to aid independence movements and look after the interests of already independent states. The OAU also aimed to stay neutral in terms of global politics, which would prevent them from being controlled once more by outside forces, an especial danger with the Cold War. The OAU had other aims, to ensure that all Africans enjoyed human rights, raise the living standards of all Africans, settle arguments and disputes between members, not through fighting but rather peaceful and diplomatic negotiation. Soon after achieving independence, a number of African states expressed a growing desire for more unity within the continent. Not everyone was agreed on how this unity could be achieved, however, and two opinionated groups emerged in this respect. The Casablanca Bloc, led by Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, wanted a federation of all African countries. Aside from Ghana, it comprised also Algeria, Guinea, Morocco, Egypt, Mali and Libya. Founded in 1961, its members were described as progressive states. The Monrovian Bloc, led by Senghor of Senegal, felt that unity should be achieved gradually, through economic cooperation. It did not support the notion of a political federation. Its other members were Nigeria, Liberia, Ethiopia and most of the former French colonies. Some of the initial discussions took place at Sanikali, Liberia. The dispute was eventually resolved when Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie I invited the two groups to Addis Ababa, where the OAU and its headquarters were subsequently established. The charter of the organization was signed by 32 independent African states. At the time of the OAU's disbanding, 53 out of the 54 African states were members. Morocco left on 12 November 1984 following the admission of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic as the government of Western Sahara in 1982. The organization was widely derided as a bureaucratic, talking shop with little power. Its struggle to enforce its decisions, and its lack of armed force made intervention exceedingly difficult. Civil wars in Nigeria and Angola continued unabated for years, and the OAU could do nothing to stop them. The policy of non-interference in the affairs of member states also limited the effectiveness of the OAU. Thus, when human rights were violated, as in Uganda under Idi Amin in the 1970s, the OAU was powerless to stop them. The organization was praised by Ghanaian former United Nations Secretary-General Kofi Annan for bringing Africans together. Nevertheless, in its 39 years of existence, critics argue that the OAU did little to protect the rights and liberties of African citizens from their own political leaders, often dubbing it as a dictators' club, or dictators' trade union. The OAU was, however, successful in some respects. Many of its members were members of the UN, too, and they were stood together within the latter organization to safeguard African interests. especially in respect of lingering colonialism. Its pursuit of African unity, therefore, was in some ways successful. Total unity was difficult to achieve, however, as the OAU was largely divided. The former French colonies, still dependent on France, had formed the Monrovia Group, and there was a further split between those that supported the USA and those that supported the USSR in the Cold War of ideologies. The pro-socialist faction was led by Kwame Nkrumah, while Félix Houphouët-Boigny of the Ivory Coast led the pro-capitalists. Because of these divisions, it was difficult for the OAU to take action against states involved in internal conflicts because it could rarely reach an agreement on what was to be done. The OAU did, however, play a pivotal role in eradicating colonialism and white minority rule in Africa. It gave weapons, training and military bases to rebel groups fighting white minority and colonial rule. Groups such as the ANC and PAC fighting apartheid, and ZANU and ZAPU fighting to topple the government of Rhodesia, were aided in their endeavors by the OAU. African harbors were closed to the South African government, and South African aircraft were prohibited from flying over the rest of the continent. The UN was convinced by the OAU to expel South Africa from bodies such as the World Health Organization. The OAU also worked with the UN to ease refugee problems. It set up the African Development Bank for economic projects intended to make Africa financially stronger. Although all African countries eventually won their independence, it remained difficult for them to become totally independent of their former colonizers. There was often continued reliance on the former colonial powers for economic aid, which often came with strings attached. Loans had to be paid back at high interest rates, and goods had to be sold to the aiders at low rates. The USA and USSR intervened in post-colonial Africa in pursuit of their own objectives. Help was sometimes provided in the form of technology and aid workers. While useful, such external assistance was often perceived as not necessarily in the best interests of the former colonies. Despite the fight to keep Westerners out of African affairs, the OAU has failed to achieve to meet goals set up to advocate African affairs. The organization still heavily depends on Western help to intervene in African affairs despite African leaders' displeasure dealing with the international community, especially Western countries. Autonomous specialized agencies, working under the auspices of the OAU, were Pan-African Telecommunications Union, Pan-African Postal Union, Pan-African News Agency, Union of African National Television and Radio Organizations, Union of African Railways, Organization of African Trade Union Unity, Supreme Council for Sports in Africa, African Civil Aviation Commission, List of chairpersons, List of secretaries general, OAU summits. It includes ordinary and extraordinary summits. Addis Ababa, 22–25 May 1963. Cairo, 17–21 July 1964. Accra, 21–26 October 1965. Addis Ababa, 5–9 November 1966. Kinshasa, 11–14 September 1967. Algiers, 13–16 September 1968. Addis Ababa, 6–10 September 1969. Addis Ababa, 1–3 September 1970. Addis Ababa, 21–23 June 1971. Rabat, 12–15 June 1972. Addis Ababa, 27–28 May 1973. Somalia, 1974. Kampala, the 28th of July, the 1st of August 1975. Port Louis, 2–6 July 1976. Libreville, 2–5 July 1977. Khartoum, 18–22 July 1978. Monrovia, 17–20 July 1979. Freetown, 1–4 July 1980. Nairobi, 24 to 27 June 1981. Addis Ababa, 6 to 12 June 1983. Addis Ababa, 12 to 15 November 1984. Addis Ababa, 18 to 20 July 1985. Addis Ababa, 28 to 30 July 1986. Addis Ababa, 27 to 29 July 1987. Addis Ababa Extraordinary Summit, October 1987. Addis Ababa, 25 to 28 May 1988. Addis Ababa, 24 to 26 July 1989. Addis Ababa, 9-11 July 1990. Abuja, 3 to 5 July 1991. Dhaka, the 29th of June, the 1st of July 1992. Cairo, 28 to 30 June 1993. Tunis, 13 to 15 June 1994. Addis Ababa, 26 to 28 June 1995. Yaoundé, 8 to 10 June 1996. Harare, 2 to 4 June 1997. Ouagadougou, 8 to 10 June 1998. Algiers, 12 to 14 July 1999. Sirte Extraordinary Summit, 6 to 9 September 1999. Lomé Acute, 10 to 12 July 2000. Lusaka, 9-11 July 2001. The last OAU Summit. OAU members by date of admission, the 25th of May 1963. Algeria, Burundi, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Congo, Dahomey, Egypt, Ethiopia, Gabon, Ghana, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Liberia, Libya, Madagascar, Mali, Mauritania, Morocco, Niger, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somali Republic, the Sudan, Tanganyika, Togo, Tunisia, Uganda, Upper Volta, Zanzibar, the 13th of December 1963. Kenya, the 13th of July 1964. Malawi, the 16th of December 1964. Zambia, October 1965. The Gambia, the 31st of October 1966. Botswana, Lesotho, August 1968. Mauritius, the 24th of September 1968. Swaziland, the 12th of October 1968. Equatorial Guinea, the 19th of November 1973. Guinea-Bissau, the 11th of February 1975. Angola, the 18th of July 1975. Cape Verde, Comoros, Mozambique, São Tomé and Príncipe, the 29th of June 1976. Seychelles, the 27th of June 1977. Djibouti, June 1980. Zimbabwe, the 22nd of February 1982. Sahrawi Republic, June 1990. Namibia, the 24th of May 1993. Eritrea, the 6th of June 1994. South Africa,